Good morning.
Good morning.
Do you know of anybody that followed the protocol for the weight loss? I'm not asking if you did. Well, I don't know who followed it, but we did get a call about a week later and said that somebody that was in there had followed the protocol and they had lost over 5 pounds in less than a week.
Wow.
Like about 6 days. That's a lot. Yeah. You don't want to keep losing at that rate. So initially they probably lost a lot and then it will slow down a bit because you don't want to lose too fast. So it's good stuff. What I want to do, there's 2 topics for this one. It's about diabetes/blood sugar issues. And the other one is a part 2 on weight loss in a healthy way. But the part 2 is no problem for anybody that didn't get a part 1 because we're going to do a recap of the vital things. So let's talk about diabetes for a minute. Current statistics, and these are current, as of last week I found these out, show that 29.1 million people, or 9.3% of the U.S. population has diabetes. That's a lot. There's only about 300 million people in this country. So it's estimated that an additional 8.1 million have undiagnosed diabetes. There are many contributing factors to this outrageously high number that is exponentially increasing, and I'm going to give you some other statistics to show you how much it's increasing. But the majority simply relates to our diet. Just a little sidetrack, I just come back from out of the country a little over a week ago, and one of the withdrawals, you might say, that I'm having is missing that really good food. Eggs were totally different, potatoes were totally different, everything was totally different.
Which country?
It was actually Cancun, and it was Yucatan local. So it wasn't like Mexico, it was Yucatan. They got their food local there, which is very different from other regions in Mexico. The eggs, the yolks were almost orange, deep orange. I love potatoes. I eat very many potatoes here. I react. I don't feel good. I ate potatoes there. Not only that they were delicious, but you could eat and eat and eat, and it still feels great. Along with the rest of the things. It was just good and healthy. Fresh fruits and everything. Their limes, wow. The limes and lemons make ours look like a joke. The flavor. So many good things. So we've ruined our food. How did we ruin our food? We're not even just talking GMO. We're talking about decades of pesticides, insecticides, chemical fertilizers, and all this garbage. Not to mention the pollution that's in the air, and then it rains and that stuff goes into the soil, pulls up through the roots, and you get the results of that in your plant. Anything you put on the soil is going to be in the plant. I'll give you a little story. Working with this family one time, had a 54-year-old child that was still not able to talk, and they were working with the brain disorders, and they grew their own food. And they brought me some of their carrots, and their carrots were huge. I said, wow, this is great. And I tasted it. I said, this is so sweet. How did you do that? He said, oh, we just sprinkle a little sugar on the soil. Need I say anything? What you put on the soil gets into food. So here's the other thing. What are you going to water it with? You're going to water it with city water? You know all the things in city water, the things you cannot filter out, the city can't filter out, and a lot of your filters advertised can't filter out. The minute things like the small molecules like medications, street drugs and medications are some of the harder things to filter out. So water it, gets in their food, you eat it, you come in here, we test you and show that you're loaded with drugs, and you say, oh, I never did. Well, it's in your blood. It's from the food and the water and everything that you have. So Diabetes. Type 1 diabetes, typically diagnosed in children and young adults, also known as juvenile diabetes. Only about 5% of people with diabetes have type 1. With type 1 diabetes, the body is not producing insulin. There's solutions for that, but not according to the medical community. The system breaks down sugars and starches into glucose to use for energy. And here's the other thing. It doesn't matter what you eat, your body's going to break it down into basically sugars. Insulin is a hormone needed to transfer glucose from the blood into the cells of the body. Medically, this is managed by insulin injections. Hyperglycemia, that's high blood glucose. Hypo, that's low blood glucose. Type 2 diabetes, the system does not use insulin. In other words, it's there, it's not absorbing it, you're insulin deficient. So that's often called insulin resistance. This produces blood glucose to be higher than normal. Why? Because your pancreas and your systems are trying to, everything in the body communicates. So it's detecting that your cells are not getting enough. So it's producing more and more. That creates a problem. Type 2 is the most common diabetes. At first, the pancreas makes extra insulin to make the difference, but later it's not able to keep up with its insulin overproduction. So then you have problems with your pancreas, and it starts a domino effect. Side note that I'm going to reiterate again, daily exercise and physical activity is very, very important. Now, all the people that I have seen over the years that have been diagnosed with the diabetes, they all have similar lifestyles and diets. And that's even if they're following exactly what their medical doctor told them to eat, which produces the problem. And a lot of them that I see, the majority of them are also not active enough, not physically active enough. Everyone that has ever come to me diagnosed with any form of diabetes and is on a diet that helps promote, like I said, the medical, whether they're following medical advice or not, and they're listening to their neighbors and reading, they do similar things, and it's wrong. One of the things I see them do a lot of times is they're proud of their breakfast cereals. Well, I eat a fiber breakfast cereal. Well, you know what? Fine for the fiber, but the grains that you're eating are fast-release sugar. It's a carbohydrate. It's not a complex carbohydrate. And it also is a fast-release sugar that helps you swing, which will produce, over time, worse blood sugar issues. We're going to recommend some diet and some things to help turn it around. The major part of this dietary is to eat more complex carbohydrates. Not carbohydrates, complex carbohydrates. One thing to stand out there, beans. You know how when you eat beans and they sustain you longer? It's because they're slow processed, they're slow digesting. Here's another rule of thumb. Anything that is fast digesting is fast turning into sugar to swing your body. Swings you don't want. You want slow released. People eating breakfast cereals that have diabetes, that needs to stop. Many also try to regulate their blood sugar with bad dietary habits, like drinking sodas, diet sodas, candy bars. Some use what's thought to be healthier and eating fruits. Fructose is very fast-releasing sugar. It's going to give you swings. All of this is wrong. Not supposed to do that. I know a man that was a CPA, very good. He was also a tax attorney. He had diabetes, very severe diabetes. And he was drinking diet sodas all the time. He always had one available, thinking he's helping regulate his sugar. It put him in a hospital. It'll eventually take his life because he's also one of the people that's very, very sold doing everything the standardized medical way. If you do everything the standardized medical way, you'll get all the results of everybody else that does the standardized medical way. So primary issues need to be addressed, especially in the beginning, such as eliminating or minimizing all gluten and casein products. Why? Anybody want to know why? Do you know what gluten and casein is? Gluten is Latin word for glue. It's a complex protein chain that's very difficult for the body to break down, so therefore it's like a glue. It remains like a glue. There are a lot of industrial uses making manufacturing adhesives out of the food we eat, like gluten. Casein is the same thing. Casein comes from cow dairy. Casein is not in sheep. Casein is not in goats. It's only in cow dairy. There's a lot of other problems with cow dairy, but if you have these issues, you need to get away from that. And then the next question, well, what if it's whole, unpasteurized, fresh out of the cow, still has the casein in it, plus you get all the parasites and critters from the cow because you haven't sterilized it. So there's some benefits. The only real benefit I know about that is you still have your high calcium, low phosphorus, because after they pasteurize it, it flips, where you have low calcium, high phosphorus, and then when you consume that in the body, it actually leaches your body of calcium rather than supplying it. That's why you see milk products that they add in calcium and vitamin D. Well, if it had enough, like they all claim, remember, in this country, all of your studies done concerning dairy are done by dairy farmers. So you're not getting any independent opinions on studies. If it was like they say, why are they adding those things? Even with them added, it's not enough to make the difference. The problem is when you consume this, the way that it is now, it used to not be that bad. But everything we've done to the cattle, everything we've done to the wheat and everything else, and barley and rye, it is so much worse. So when we eat it, it glues up our gut. The first 12 inches in your small intestine is the most vital. That's where most of your nutrients are absorbed from your digestion into your blood. So here's the deal. If you don't have celiac is where you're missing 4 genes and you cannot process gluten or casein. Gluten is the primary focus. Then the little villi that are in your small intestine in that first 12 inches especially, they get destroyed if you get exposed to it. But if you have an intolerance, an allergy to a severe or very light degree that you're not even noticing, you don't destroy the villi whatsoever. But what's happened is you glue them up. And when they're glued up, how do they absorb your nutrients? They don't. So you can eat good, healthy food. You can take high-quality vitamins and minerals and supplements, and they're just passing through your system. They're not getting into your blood. I tested a child last week, and you're supposed to fast before you come in here 8 hours to do the thorough testing. Well, he forgot. He not only ate breakfast, but just before they walked in, he had a little, like candy bar, supposedly natural, but it's a bar. I usually can't test people with that because when you're looking at the blood, it obliterates everything with the nutrition and stuff that gets in there. So I said, well, we'll take a look and just to get an overview. I can't see any fine details. I looked at it, and you know what? I couldn't see where he had eaten anything in the blood. No absorption. And he had a multitude of issues. So there's a big flag right there. He can eat all he wants. He's not absorbing it. It's going right through him. You can tell the difference in the blood. You eat something now. Let's say you fasted for 8 hours. And we test your blood. You look at it. Then you have something. It doesn't need to be much. A couple of bites of food or a little bar or whatever. And then give it 10 minutes. I'll test your blood. You can see it throughout your blood. It doesn't take long. But then it takes a while for that to be utilized to break down. It depends on blood enzymes and everything else. But you can see it in there. So it's very important not to glue up your gut. So the standard understanding, if you're the average person, you're not fighting a disease or disorder, is you can have as much as 10% gluten in your diet. That means if you don't have celiac, you don't have an allergy to it, you don't have a disease, you don't have any problems, then 10% in your diet, along with good roughage, is okay. That's the main mindset. You know what the typical American diet has? 70% gluten in their diet.
Is bread the only thing that has gluten in it, or are there other things in it?
Gluten is derived from wheat, barley, and rye. That's your main aspects. The thing is, if you're dealing with a person that has an intolerance or a severe allergy, then you got to look at other complex protein chains, because that's what it is, that are not easily broken down. Things like oats and other things. So it's not so much that they have gluten in them, they have another similar situation with a complex protein chain that's hard to break down. So if they're not breaking down one, they're not going to break down others very easy either. So it depends on where you fit in the deal. But here's the deal. Flour is gluten. What do you do when you're a kid? At least when I was a kid, you know what they did? You go in, you have some flour in school, this must have been first grade or something, and then you mix some water, and you mix it together, and what do you have? What do? You have glue. And you can glue things together and paste them up. You know what? All you got to do is add a little sugar, and you got dessert. And then you eat your glue. I mean, come on, it's that simple. So it's in everything. When you take sauces, you can figure, if somebody's making gravy, they put a little flour in there. You don't have to. There's lots of other things you can do as a thickener. But classically, they put a little flour in there to thicken it. So you think, okay, I need to be aware of things that have been thickened. Well, what about things like soy sauce, which is very thin? It's got gluten in it. Most all of them have gluten in it. Why? Why do they do that? You know why? So it will stick to the food. They put it in sauces and seasonings and all types of things so the flavor will stick to the food. And then you eat it and it glues up your gut. There's a common restaurant chain that starts with a P, and there's another one with a W. And you go in there and you eat their food, and they have fresh vegetables. They truly have fresh vegetables. And they'll whip it up in a wok right quick, and you can get some good stuff. You can get some brown rice, the whole rice, and all of that. But you know what they have in the kitchen? They have big 5-gallon buckets full of water, and not flour in it, but the derivative from flour, gluten, that they put gluten in that water. And when they take their nice, fresh vegetables, they'll take them and dip them in that water, and then they'll put them in a wok and cook it up, so that the flavors will stick to the food. So let me tell you, you're getting gluten, and in many places that you'd never dream you're getting gluten. So it adds up. When you think 70%, well, not 70% of my diet is bread. And we're talking about all the things that are in your diet that have gluten. Are you getting it? So one of the main reasons, and especially in this country, that we have such an explosion of diabetes and blood sugar issues is because of that. Our gut is glued up and we're not absorbing our nutrition. Part of the nutrition is minerals. Part of that is chromium. You don't get any chromium, you don't have anything to help regulate your blood sugar, you're eventually going to end up with blood sugar issues and probably diabetes. So the first thing to do is start addressing one of the likely reasons you have diabetes to start with. Clean up your gut. How do you do that? Clean up your diet and eat some roughage to get that stuff out of there. You can't do it in a day or two. Same thing with casein. I didn't spend a lot of time on casein, but it's another complex protein chain. You know when cow milk clabbers? It's the casein in it that causes it to clabber.
What about buttermilk? Is that the same thing?
It's cow dairy. Cow dairy. So butter, yogurt, am I pushing any buttons yet? Any and everything that has cow dairy in it,
You don't eat.
don't eat it, especially if you're dealing with this.
Is goat okay, goat milk?
Goat is fine, there's no
Goat
case, goat cheese is fine. It's wonderful. Goat cheese, sheep cheese, all of that. Yogurt, goat yogurt is great. And it doesn't leave you with that full, heavy feeling when you do it with glue.
So you can't eat yogurt.
Goat. Let me give you an unhealthy example. Can I give you an unhealthy example? Has anybody ever had pudding? You know, chocolate pudding, vanilla pudding, just plain pudding. You know what's in that, right? Flour. And then flavoring. So, have you ever had a serving of pudding? And you go, I like that flavor. I think I'll have another. And you eat another. How do you feel? How does your gut feel? Do you want another one? Do you want a third one? You may want a third one. If you do, you're really going for it. How do you feel after that? You could take the same unhealthy, I start to say garbage, unhealthy substances and or change one item, remove the cow dairy, still got the rest of the ingredients, but use goat milk. And you'll eat a serving. That's good. Flavors. Matter of fact, it tastes a little lighter and a little more smooth. Then eat another serving. Oh, that's good. Don't feel anything here. Eat a third one. You still don't feel it here. Get rid of the gluten and casein.
What about almond milk instead of goat milk?
Doesn't have any gluten or casein. You could use that in it, but there's a lot of things you can't use almond milk in that you can with goat milk. In other words, goat milk, you can substitute cow milk with cooking and everything else. Pretty much anything you do with cow milk, you can do with goat milk.
Where can you find those kind of products?
Most stores.
There is a goat butter.
Earth Balance. There's a goat butter?
There is a goat butter.
Okay.
Because I bought it and you can buy it at
Does it taste good?
Whole Foods. And I really can't tell any difference.
Oh, good. There's also a substitute. I would say that the goat butter would be far more healthy. But there's a substitute called Earth Balance.
Earth balance? Earth balance.
Now, I don't know, but there's another product with a very similar name that is not that. So Earth Balance, you can do anything with that you can regular butter. It's not butter and it's not margarine.
Can we go back to flour for just a moment?
Sure.
How about cornstarch in place of flour? Or is it the same thing?
It doesn't have gluten in it, but 90% of the corn in the U.S. is GMO. Corn is famous for causing inflammation.
Then what do you use?
For what?
Do you are like making,
Thickener?
yes,
Tapioca? And there's some other things.
Arrowroot powder, tapioca powder.
Yes, that's a very good one.
Yeah, these are the grains you can buy or the flour you can buy. In Asian store you can buy tapioca powder or the whole tapioca and make your own powder or just put it like that.
And it doesn't take very
Arrowroot powder
much.
is very
It
good.
really thickens.
Yeah, and arrowroot powder is very good.
And it's not only okay to use, it's healthy.
thank you.
What about, is there any kind of tortillas that we don't eat bread, but we do? And
Well, the ones that I had in the Yucatan were really good, and it didn't cause me any problems.
Which ones were those?
Yes.
Which ones?
There's another thing that I understand, now this is from someone that read this, so it's secondhand, that traditionally, understand that Mexico, the culture, has been dealing with corn for a long time. And what they've done differently, from what I hear, is that they never grow one type of corn together. I've heard that they grow as much as 8 different types of corn together. And it helps with infestations and bug control and all kinds of other stuff and disease so that their crops will last and be strong and independent. So the corn there is totally different. Everything here is pretty much moderated by Monsanto. And it's 90% and growing to try to reach 100% GMO. Most of your vitamin C has corn in it. Your gas tank has corn in it. There's corn in about everything you can think of. When you're dealing with cancer and a lot of other type of things, corn has to go fanatically. It is not only problems with the GMO, but all of this messed up corn is an inflammatory. You don't want inflammation preoccupying your immune system and everything else.
What about millet, teff, quinoa, and amaranth grains like that?
They're on my list of things to eat. Often called superfoods. Now somebody somewhere sits down and analyzes something and they call it a superfood. And the superfood list is always shifting and changing because it's all by opinion. But what it means is they're very rich in healthy minerals and vitamins and everything else. And some of the things that she had just mentioned, which I'll tap on again, you could basically live on that if you had to. It is good enough for you to get enough nutrients. You could live on it. Since 1990, that's not long ago, the need for organ donors, now this is a medical statistic, that means people needing transplants, they need more donors, which I'm against. And then people will say, well, it saves so-and-so's life. There's other ways. Has increased 700%.
Wow, that's terrible.
70% would be terrible. 700%. So outrageously and disgusting. Most of this need is related to the rise in diabetes. It's not my assumption. That is said in the same medical study.
Okay, now, on my driver's license, I am a donor. Are you recommending not donating?
Everybody has to choose for themselves. I do not.
Okay.
I don't want somebody else's organ, and I'm not going to participate in giving somebody else my organ. For the main reasons of why I don't want somebody else's organ, which are not even talking about the spiritual aspect, which is the most profound. Just talking about the chemical and anatomical and DNA aspects that there are tons of medical evidence on, the armed forces evidence, and on and on and on of the repercussions of that. Now here's the other one. Anything you take of somebody else's body and put in you, what also has to go along with that for the rest of your life?
Immune suppressant drugs.
Immune suppressant drugs. Steroids that suppress your immune system because your body instantly tries to reject that. It knows it does not belong there, and it will do all it can to reject it. So they have to suppress your immune system for you to keep that. And sometimes that doesn't even work. That means for the rest of your life, you're vulnerable to any and everything that comes along because your immune system cannot function properly. You know what I do in the blood? I can tell if somebody's on steroids or if they've recently been on any level of steroids. Because your neutrophils in the blood, part of your white blood cells, are the ones that crawl around like a blob. They're very flexible and they move around. When you look at the blood with somebody that's done that, they're symmetrical and they're just sitting there floating around. They're like they're in a little cage and they can't do their job. They can't do anything. And your body starts producing more of them because it sees a lack of the job being done, but it's just more of them sitting there floating around, not doing anything. So what do you think God thinks about that? Because some people will have that and somebody's life as so-called saved by the process, and they'll say, oh, thank you, God, it's a miracle, and this, that, and the other, and that's a lot of confusion. How do you think God feels about Think about it. Forget our understanding or medical understanding or the fears or the need or the strive for life. Think about, okay, God, what we're going to do is we're going to take an organ from one human being and we're going to stick it in another one. And then we're going to give them synthetic drugs that will impair their system so that we're able to do that. What do you think about that? We did that. I know you didn't do it. We did that. Don't get me started.
Lack of trust.
It is.
God can heal.
Let me give you a short story. There was a lady we worked with, similar situation with blood sugar, liver was doing bad, kidneys had shut down and dried up. She got on a transplant list and got a kidney from a relative. We started working with her because her health was still going down. And guess what? They spliced that kidney in. They didn't remove the little raisins that were dried up and not working of her old kidneys because they just atrophied down into nothing and stopped functioning. They spliced the other one in. When we started working with her health, the kidney that she's supposed to have started growing and functioning, and even though she's on the steroids, her body started rejecting that other kidney. And you know the response that we got? She and family was mad and upset because they had donated from a relative that kidney. They were not focusing on, she's doing good, she's functioning better. So what's your mindset? Did you miss the part that's capable? There's nothing in the medical community that can help revive the kidney. They put you on things like dialysis, and does that resolve things? Usually the next thing after that is you go on a transplant list. The rest of this says, again, most of that is related to diabetes and its effect on the organs failing. So currently 22 people die per day, about 1,000 annually, according to medical statistics, due to, this is their opinion, no organ available for those on transplant waiting list. What they really mean is they're dying because you're not doing anything to really truly help them. They think the only answer is to get more donors. Well, with a 700% increase, how many people have to die and donate their organs for what they're doing that's exponentially growing? In other words, it's not working. Should we give a definition of common sense? So in my opinion, none of this is needed. The disease, the organ transplants, the deaths, we don't control life and death. And I'm talking about dying from disorders that can be helped, and many of them prevented to start with. Over the past 30 years, anyone we've ever treated with TKM and diet, to any degree of the disorder, from slight to very severe, including being on a transplant list, none has died of the problem. Everybody dies sooner or later. You understand what I mean? Or ever needed a transplant after we worked on them. This includes those who have already had a transplant and declining. I gave you one story about that. Here's the conditions. With cooperation, we've been able to turn it around. So whether having blood sugar swings, high or low, include chromium GTF in your diet. It's a mineral that helps regulate blood sugar release. It's a capsule. It typically comes in a capsule. Depending on the severity of how much you take take at least one before each meal. High carbohydrate diet is not good, nor most grains, pastas, fruit, and any food that is fast digesting or high in sugar or results in high in sugar. For example, if you juice carrots, if you're eating a carrot, it's not high in sugar. Don't worry about it. If you juice it, you get a lot of it, and it's very sweet, and you get a rush of sugar. So don't do those things. If you're juicing, juice greens. Stop gluten and casein, all cow dairy, due to the gluing up of the villi, which affects the small intestine more than anything else, which will keep you from absorbing your nutrition and minerals like chromium that may possibly be the reason you had the disorder in the first place. Pink Himalayan salt would be a preferred one to use.
What about salt, popcorn, organic popcorn, or is that still a no-no?
Popcorn,
Popcorn.
popped corn,
Yeah.
GMO.
Okay.
So,
I know, I like it too.
Is organic corn GMO?
If it's
I mean, GMO
true organic, then
Organic is
no.
not supposed to be GMO.
Correct.
Okay.
But that's why I say true organic, because according to the laws, you can lie.
Yes.
So
I know.
organic popcorn is okay?
True organic
No
popcorn.
GMO.
Correct.
How do you know what's true? You know?
You don't.
Yeah.
Generally, you don't unless you do investigative work and people tell you the truth.
The movie theater has the best popcorn in the world.
Oh, you're talking about flavor. It's just the same as you go to some of these restaurants and they add in chemicals and garbage to enhance flavor, and you'll say, "Oh, this food's better." You've been fooled by chemicals. As a matter of fact, you know what they do with chemicals these days? You can go to many manufacturers and bring in anything you want. You can put stuff together to come up with any flavor you want. And then what they'll do is they'll take chemicals to match that flavor so that you don't have to go through this process. You could just use chemicals.
So we just drink our food instead of eating it.
Well, just don't get an injection.
Well, that's not good. Obviously, that's not good.
Yeah. Let's go get a chemical injection. What helps a whole lot is you pray before you eat.
Never been.
Please.
Every meal.
That's the ultimate. And work on the wisdom that God provides to know what to do and what not to do. And the other part that most people don't do and don't like to do is all the investigative work that it takes to find out the sources of things, what's truly good and what's not good, and sticking to that. That is your best option as far as what we can do physically. Like what we did when we were on the trip. We didn't even want to order off the menu. We wanted to go through the buffet. I didn't want to do the work of thinking what I wanted on the menu. I'm on vacation. Don't have to prepare it, don't have to clean up, and I don't want to sit there and think of what I want. I want to walk through the line and go, that looks pleasing to the eye. Although I did make a mistake. I think fajitas is something that they were having, it's totally, the chicken there is just unbelievable. The bones of the chicken, the flavor is rich, there's hardly any fat on it, and it don't look like the nasty fat you get here. And the bones on the chicken were so deep and dark, some of the areas were almost black. This was rich, good chicken, just delicious. I'm hungry. Anyway, you were making your fajitas and tacos different ways, and they had someone there to make up whatever you want. So I go through, I said, well, I want some guacamole. And I look over and I see this sauce there, and I said, that looks pretty thin. But I know they do everything natural here. They're not going to have packaged guacamole. So I said, well, I'll try some of that. I put that on the plate. Got me a big bunch of it because I love guacamole. And as my family's sitting at the table, it says, why are you turning colors? So the waiter came by and I said, is this jalapeno sauce? Because it was green. He did this. No. And then the pause. Habanero. He remembered me for the rest of the visit. It was so hot. But I tell you what, I got something from that I've never had. It was almost euphoric. After you get past the burn, I got this charge. It was just revved up. I went back the other day, the next day, and I got me some more. I didn't eat as much of it. But that stuff will get your endorphins going.
I got this wasabi, this Japanese thing by mistake, big dollop of wasabi, and I literally saw stars in the day, you can see.
By the way, spices and hot stuff, unless you've got a problem with particular disorder with it, is also going to help you in these processes, including weight loss. So the preferred diet, and I don't mean diet by any particular name. People are always bringing up, well, what about this diet and that diet? What I mean is how you eat. It's not a diet with a name. And the eating I'm talking about is healthy eating. Is to eat fresh vegetables and quality proteins. Eat a lot more complex carbohydrates. If you're dealing with diabetes or blood sugar issues, especially diabetes, every meal, every time you consume food, you need complex carbohydrates in there. Even your snacks, if you have snacks, let them be complex carbohydrates, so you're working quickly to turn this thing around. What are these things? Carbohydrates are mainly starches and sugars. Simple carbohydrates have 1 to 2 sugars, like flour and fructose. Complex carbohydrates have 3 or more sugars and are fiber-rich. Eat healthy green vegetables every day. The better complex carbohydrates for this issue is beans. Although you can eat potatoes because they're complex carbos, but I don't advise it for certain situations.
Can you eat both red and white?
For this purpose, whatever you like. Now, when we get to the weight part, potatoes are not going to be there. We're still talking about blood sugar and diabetes. Butternut squash, pumpkin, beans, lentils, peas. Beans, lentils, peas. Complex carbohydrates take longer to digest, usually are packed with fiber, vitamins, and minerals. Typically, dietitians will recommend grains, rice, pasta. Not me. They're not effective enough. Increase your good and healthy fiber. Slow digesting and acceptable grains preferred are amaranth, millet, gluten-free oats, quinoa, things like that. Don't overdo that, and when you eat that, you want to have some other things that are slow digesting because those are grains.
There is one grain called sorghum.
Yes.
Sorghum
that's-
is very good for diabetes.
Yes, it is. So you can include that.
Yeah.
But you want to have some slower, complex carbohydrates with that. That's carbohydrates.
Right.
It is also a good sweetener. It's good for many things. All types of peas, all types of lentils, all types of beans. TKM, can't forget TKM because it's the key factor. You can do all these things and still be in a problem. It will help you, it will slow it down, it may even stop it, but if you want to reverse and get your system back in order, you've got to include these things that work in a way that diet never can. By the way, the lady that got her kidney reversed and all of that had nothing to do with diet. It's the TKM. So primary applications, I'll always say this first, median. Spleen, why? Because spleen, when you're doing, there's a left and right spleen sequence. So when you're doing the side that actually affects your spleen organ, it also directly affects your pancreas. So that's to make the medical community happy that you're addressing something energetically to help pancreas.
Right one, right? Right spleen?
Left. Your spleen is on your left side.
No, but right sequence for,
Correct.
yeah.
So you're holding the 5 on one side and the opposite, so correct. The one that I focus on more is liver sequence. Let me give you an example. There was a man that came from California. He was obese and he had severe blood sugar problems. They were ready to cut his legs off. His lungs were full of fluid. He was in terrible condition. So we're talking about extremely advanced. He was a medical reject. I would tell you the stories, but I don't want to take the time for that. So we had a nurse at the time from England that was interning to learn TKM, and she had worked enough to where she could do solo sessions. And she went in and she took vitals prior, and his blood sugar was, I think, like 360, 380, something like that. And she came and got me hyperventilating, saying, "This man's back here, he's got this." And she instantly flipped over to her medical thinking. Said, "I can't be here with my medical license if he goes into a coma or dies. So we need to call 911 right now." So she's worried about all the medical stuff. I'm thinking, the man needs help now. So how long is it? What are the parameters of how long it can be when you call 911 before they get there? When they get there, how long is it before you actually get help? Man needs help now. So I said, I tell you what, you're thinking medically. Think back on what you've learned here. Go back, work on him. This is the application I want you to do. We'll give it 15 minutes. If he's the same or worse, we'll call 911 and you can go hide somewhere. So she goes back, she works on him. She does this sequence fairly quick because is he gonna die? You know, is he gonna go in a coma and then possibly die? So 15 minutes later, we checked the blood sugar and it dropped 150 or more points. Back down to his extremely high norm. It dropped to his norm in his condition.
So she did liver or spleen?
Liver sequence. Liver sequence in TKM is top of the list key factor for balancing blood sugar. If you did spleen, it wouldn't have had that dramatic and rapid results. I've also developed since then a pancreas sequence that is not, because there's not a pancreas pathway that we are familiar with. So it's for the physical organ. If you'd have done that, it still wouldn't have had the same results as the liver sequence. The point of that is to emphasize liver sequence. So apply liver sequence a lot, daily, 2, 3 times, 5 times, 10 times, depending on the severity of the need and how quick you want the results.
Both sides or left liver sequence?
I would alternate. One time I'd do left, next time I'd do right.
Okay.
Also include in left 14 and right 9. The reason is that helps left 14 area. I would alternate that as well because what that's working on is spleen and pancreas. So when you alternate to where you're doing right 14 and left 9, then you're working with liver area. They have their benefits to help correct the situation. I used the word help, but what was the other word I used? Correct the situation. Plus the combination sequence number 2325. That's essential for all, I'll put it this, let me explain it a different way. 2325 sequence helps regulate all blood chemistry, and blood sugar is part of your blood chemistry. I would also include what's called SFE first stratum, that special function energy of first stratum, especially the left sequence. Now, don't forget, drink plenty of water. 100 ounces a day would be a good start. Yes, you could take your body weight. If you weigh 100 pounds, then you could do the typical thing of cut that in half, and then that would be 50 ounces a day that you would drink. People that have a lot of weight will think, well, I can't really go by my weight. Yes, you do, whatever it is.
So what's the formula? I'm sorry, how do you go by the weight?
You take the body weight in pounds.
Yes.
Now I'll explain what it is afterwards. You take the body weight in pounds, and I'll just round it off, say a person is 100 pounds.
Right.
Then you cut that in half to be 50 pounds.
Right.
You make that ounces instead of pounds.
Oh, okay.
And that's the minimum amount of water they need per day.
And good water.
Good water. And nothing you put in it equals water. So if you put lemon in it, it changes it. That's a diuretic. If you put sugar, if you put tea, if you put anything in it, your body receives it different. So we're just talking about good, clean water.
Regular murky filter or something.
Yes.
What is good clean water?
That's a good question. Purified water.
Reverse osmosis.
That you can buy at the store that says purified in a jug?
Oh, everything lies. No, filters, most filters are not doing a good job. Most of the other stuff's not doing a good job. Do not drink distilled water for your drinking water. If you want to use it for your iron and utensils and different things to make colloidal silver, fine. But don't drink it as your drinking water. You can use reverse osmosis and different things. We use the Berkey and attach the extra filters on the bottom of it to take out things like strychnine, fluoride, some of the chemicals and things that most normal, really good quality tight filters still do not take out because the molecular structure is so small. So we attach those other filters on the bottom of it. The only way you're really going to know is to have your water tested after it goes through whatever your filtering is. And then what are you going to do to take it off to get tested? Put it in some plastic? No, you want to put it in a clean glass container, not a metal lid. You
Not
want something
stainless
protected.
steel, not stainless steel container.
Because it's going to have an impact on it in certain ways. Although the stainless won't leach, but it will impact it. So glass would be best,
No plastic.
no plastic. Because the plastic will leach into the water. There are other supplements that can help. Dietary advice, it's very, very important. But these things collectively may not help severe cases without proper TKM therapy. There are other things supplementally that you can do. We have products called glucose regulation, high or low. It's got some herbs aside from chromium and things like that in it. Some of these things take a license to get, but they're quality. We also have things like glycemic manager, glucose control, Glycotrol. I'm not recommending that you take these just because I have shown them. Everything needs to be tested for the individual because actually you could have an adverse reaction to these unless it's okay for you as an individual. I can't emphasize that enough.
So how do you check out the adverse effect? You're going to get sick?
You may feel sick, you may have wrong reactions with blood sugar. It could be a lot of different things. It may be things that are messing up with your chemistry that you don't even feel symptomatically. Something I've noticed with a lot of people with diabetes that have been labeled with diabetes is they also get rotator cuff issues. This has to do with the energetic correlations. People go, thinking it's totally unassociated. It is not. It is directly associated. You got to have both to get rid of the problem. So rotator cuff issues, and if you want to think about, remember there's spiritual aspects to everything. There's mental, emotional, physiological, and energetic aspects to everything. So one of the usually unknown mental, emotional aspects to someone diagnosed with diabetes is they're too self-critical. Eating away itself, whether they're aware of it or not, too self-critical is an issue that needs to be dealt with. I can't emphasize, these things are usually swept under the rug because they think it's not important enough. Something like that can be the stumbling block that keeps you from recovering.
And for rotator cuff, what is the major TKM sequence?
I'll tell you something that will help greatly if you understand the positions. The cuff here, what I would call the cuff, not the rotator cuff there, but in the body, right in here, you're taking your hand, it's hard for me to do that because I'm not over there, but you take your hand and you put all your fingers into this crease in the cuff on the side that you're having a problem. put one hand there, and you put the other hand, same side of the body, on the 23. And you stay there for a good 20 minutes. That'll help bring a lot of relief. But you're not addressing the cause. So you got to deal with the mental, emotional, diabetes, and other things. If they don't have diabetes and don't have a blood sugar issue, and they happen to have a rotator cuff issue, then primarily you want to do large intestine sequence and this same procedure that I just said. And other applications in TKM would be called finger sequences. There's a category called finger sequences.
So if our gut is already had used so much glue or gluten that it is covered and we are not able to absorb the ingredients from the food, so how do we unglue it? So it is, roughage will do that.
Yes. Stop eating glue and eat some carrots, eat roughage, eat celery. If you want to take some fiber, you can take some fiber, but if you're thinking just naturally, eat roughage.
And that will start cleaning it, that glue from...
It will start cleaning it out. So you stop the glue and you start eating the foods that are roughage to come through there.
Okay, and about the fruits, so people with diabetes cannot eat any fruits or they can eat a small amount at times?
I would not suggest them eating fruit. I'm looking for a recovery process, not a lifetime of what you do. Because most people with diabetes, they think, oh, I got to do this for the rest of my life. No, we're talking recovery. We want to get you out from the label, get you a normal life. So we're talking about for the recovery period. We want to do things that work for recovery and not things that work against it.
I see.
Do you have to have fruit? No. You don't have to have fruit.
What about probiotics?
Yes, very important. Now we're expanding out into the multitude of things that what you really need to do if you want help, all these are basically pointers. Get professional help because it's available. Isn't that the understanding here? Or is this, are these, because we're going to have a lot of lectures. Are these lectures for you to, they're pointers. You can use them, you can go ahead and use all that information and do that, but if you have any kind of serious problem or know anybody that's got a serious problem, they need to get some serious help. So that we're not experimenting around with different things, which is what the majority of society does. What my neighbor said, I read, I heard, I Googled.
Is there a probiotic that you recommend and some that you don't?
I recommend the ones that test best for the person.
Okay. So,
So with the muscle testing and all that, I mean,
Muscle testing is a way to do it if you know how to muscle test correctly.
yeah.
So the first thing in muscle testing is test to see if the person is communicating properly in their body. If they're not, you can't get correct muscle testing out of anything with them. If they are, and you know how to muscle test, and they know how to let go and clear their mind and not have opinion about whatever you're testing, you can do some good muscle testing. If you want more detailed information, you do Zyto testing. Zyto will lead with the other things that are there with somebody, an operator that knows how to use them. Not everybody that has the equipment knows how to use it. There are a lot of people that have the equipment and know how to use it. There's a lot of people that don't. Like any profession.
there are different types of Zyto machines that are tested.
There are a variety of levels of Zyto machines, and for instance, this one, we've added on about 1 million extra frequencies and other software developed by Dr. William Lee Cowden, or the geeks that he got, that it does more of a linear scan. It's a total different scan than what the Zyto program can do. But it's meant to go in and blend with the Zyto and say, okay, now let's run it correctly. And then we customize our scans, and we can do a lot of things because you can customize it. So if you do all that, you have more that you can do. And there's the understanding. There's things in there that you can run and look at it, and if you don't have the training, and I don't mean Zyto provides that training, the training to really understand what all it can do, you really won't know what you're looking at. There are people that do a lot of training, and they're very good at what they do, but you got to search those out. That's what I'm saying. You just call any plumber, any painter, any builder to build your house or any mechanic to work on your car, you want to check them out. So check them out, make sure they do their job correctly. Okay, we're going to start weight loss. I'm not going to start weight loss. But we're going to start the subject.
I don't know.
You don't need weight loss, I can do it.
No, I need more weight. I'm working on it. I actually gained about 4 pounds on the trip. That was good. I thought I might lose because I was walking in the beach a whole lot, and I'd say swimming in the ocean, but it was more like dodging the waves that were trying to kill you. I remember one wave hit me, smacked me, it caught me by surprise a minute, and I heard at least 4 pops in my spine. Wow. Okay, but it was fun. So if you do it, it works. I don't know of anybody that's done this and it not work. And you don't go through bad things. You usually have a rise in energy, you feel good, you think better, all that kind of stuff. A lot of so-called diets out there for weight loss go through misery and suffering. Is that a
Did you go
question?
through those steps,
What steps?
about weight loss that you went through the first section?
We're just starting that.
Okay.
We're starting that right now. How many hours in a day? I'll help you. So you see this part? This is a cycle. So if you go to the cycle and here's a cutoff point and right here is 24 hours, how many 8-hour segments do you have? 3. So this is about 8 hours. That's the focus. What you do is, this is the main part that's going to do the most. Here is the most profound part that gets the results. And it's because you're working on the cycles. Your body works on cycles. And if you get your body back into correct cycles and let it go through its process, then your body will be able to work for health and it will balance its weight. So you eat in an 8-hour period. You pick the 8-hour period, but whatever that 8-hour period is, needs to be in the same, whatever it is, it needs to be in the same cycle every day. You could fluctuate maybe a half hour or so, but if you pick one 8-hour period in one day, and a different 8-hour period in the next day, and a different one in the next day, you're not on a cycle. So you want to create a cycle to where you eat for 8 hours. I'll give you more details about that. The main point is so that you don't eat for 16 hours. That gives your body another cycle to process the food. What did I say we have people do before they come in for testing? They fast for 8 hours. Because I want to see things get processed so I can see more of how the blood in the body is really functioning. So you need this process, period. You know what you need next? What most people never get to. Detox. People will get to the eat, they'll get to the process, they don't get to the detox. So you want to get to the detox stage. So 16 hours every 24 hours without food. And then people will start saying, well, I can't do that. Well, here's the deal. If you got diabetes or something like that, then we'll work with that. If there's a disease or a certain condition, we'll work with that to make adjustments. If there's not these issues, this is what it takes. And it puts your body on the right cycles, and it will automatically start dumping the weight.
What about tea or coffee? That has to be within 8 hours also.
You really want to ask me about tea and coffee?
Yes.
Is there a trash bucket around here somewhere? You put it in the trash bucket and you take it out. And I'm assuming that the tea you mean is caffeine. Because
Well,
coffee is
It can
caffeine.
be any kind of a hot drink. I meant to say not necessarily a caffeine tea, but it can
But if
be...
it's an herbal tea,
Yeah.
no problem.
Okay, it can be outside the 8 hours.
Yes, don't put anything in it. If you put honey in it, you put sugar in it, you put something else in it,
Right.
no,
Stevia?
no.
Understood you.
No. Because then it will be processing like a food. Even the tea will start processing like a food. But it's not that big a deal.
And somebody with
It's more of a
diabetes,
flavored liquid.
and somebody with the diabetes, can they take, they will have to take something outside that 8 hour also.
So that's where we'd work with that. So we'll lay down a regular foundation that fits for the majority of everybody. And then for the in particulars, if you have questions about yourself or someone you know, we can do that. I prefer that they come in and we customize it because I need to know more about them.
Now, coffee, there are some caffeine-free coffees, these days, great coffees, natural.
They're
They
not.
give you coffee taste, but they're actually...
That's the coffee lie though. It's not truly caffeine free.
Dandelion roots and things like that,
Well,
roasted.
there's dandelion roots, there is the chicory,
Yeah.
there's other types, things like that. No, they don't have caffeine in it.
Right.
But any type of coffee does.
Okay.
So chicory's okay to drink?
Yes,
Healthy wise, I mean, for your health.
yes.
Okay. That's the stuff that they have down in New Orleans that,
Yeah.
Now, this is barring that they put something else in there.
okay.
No milk or sugar or anything.
Yeah.
Very, very, very strong.
And even with the content of it, if they put something else in it, other additives. So, everybody that comes in here with health problems, I try to get them off caffeine, and especially coffee. Because even if there was no caffeine, the coffee bean frequencies are terrible for your health. One sip of coffee, it takes 3 days for your body to regulate back out again, energetically.
Some sinus drainage. You know, but I have been drinking some hot tea. It's herbal, just to get rid of the phlegm. Is there something that I can use that will ease the cough and the drainage?
Slippery elm,
Slippery elm? Okay.
not for the drainage, but for the cough and the coating it.
Yes, that's what I mean.
Yeah, for the cough and the coating it, slippery elm is very good. And you can even get slippery elm lozenges.
Okay.
Because if you take slippery elm capsule, it goes in your system, helps protect your gut. You want it in your throat.
Yes.
And you can also take fresh ginger, boil it in the water.
Along with tons of other things. You could also do something that you don't have to go and buy if you have it, and it's called a 9 sequence. You could also, 9 sequence, that's TKM.
I've got the book.
20-21-22 sequence. You could do the stomach sequence. You could do something as simple as hold 4 and opposite 21 for that side sinus. So something very important about this 24 hours and these 3 cycles of 8. One of them you're eating in. Something very important is you eat every 2 hours.
Every 2 hours.
Do not go more than 2 hours without eating something. What this does not mean is that you eat 8 hours solid.
No main meals, each meal is of equal.
You can have your 3 meals, and you can have snacks and stuff in between. You don't want to have a meal and then go 3 hours before you eat something else. This is about metabolism.
But when you said 8 hours, you mean like, you're talking about 9 to 5, you can eat only between 9 and 5,
That's it.
Or 10 to 6.
or 10 to 6, whatever.
So your breakfast can be at 9, and your dinner can be finishing at 5. Here's the other side. You want at least 4 hours, at least 4 hours of your last food before you go to sleep. How many people do you know that want their midnight snack or their late night snack? We're talking about weight loss. Plus, forget about weight. It's not healthy. It's simply not healthy. You will not be healthy having late night snacks or eating something and then going to bed. Do not go longer than 2 hours in that 8-hour period without consuming something. It can be a snack. It doesn't have to be a meal. Do not eat except in rare cases due to a disorder or disease within 4 hours of going to sleep. Got it? drink a 16-ounce glass of clean water 15 minutes before each meal. Now, this is aside from your water. That's very important for you is to drink plenty of water. Even in that 16-hour period where you're not eating food.
So if you're 100 pounds, 50 ounces of water, and then 60 ounces.
Put it this way, that's your minimum. If you're healthy, you're not on a detox program, you're not on any other type of program, you don't have any caffeine in your diet, you don't have any carbonation in your diet, you don't have any of those, you don't drink lemon in your fluids, and all of those other things that can dehydrate you, you're not perspiring too much, and all those other things. If that's the case, then that should be good for you. Otherwise, you're going for 100 ounces a day or more, depending on weight.
100 ounces is almost what I'm, about 105, 103, 105, something along there. But then I add on 16 ounces on top of that.
I would. Here's the deal. The water's going to help you in every way. The main thing your body survives on is hydro energy.
Okay.
Your organs, your glands, your systems, your blood, your lymph, your brain, everything needs hydro energy. And we're trying to give it everything else but that. I'm shocked at the amount of people come in and say, well, I really don't like water. It really doesn't matter if you like it or not. If you want to live. Do not drink water right after your meals.
What if you're taking supplements with your meal?
You mean before food?
No, with food.
Because usually it's before food or after food. If it's on the list that I gave you, in that section, it'll have a B there that says before, the little legends.
But there was a note after that said with food.
Now, there are some exceptions where something would be with food, and that would be a D. Down in the legends, it will say D. I'll bet you yours doesn't have a D on it. It can be taken with food,
That may be-
but we're talking weight loss.
So, okay, so I'll take it after food.
You don't want to take those after food. If it says before food, what you're doing is you're taking it 15 minutes before food when you're drinking your water. Very important. The water's not to fill you up, it's actually to help your digestive system. Now, what will work against it, because that's preparation, what will work against it is if you have water during eating.
During what, I'm sorry?
Eating.
Okay.
So have you ever been really hungry and you sit down to eat and you find yourself, and then you think, oh, I think I need some liquid. Boom, 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 boom. And sometimes you can almost feel it. Bloat. It's like it slams on the brakes on your digestion because you just alkalize your system. While you're chewing the food, your sublingual glands and everything are detecting what you got. And it's communicating with your entire digestive system, which involves your organs, your blood, everything. Everything. Your digestion involves more of your body than most anything you'll do in life. And it's telling them all what's coming down. Get ready. Get prepared. Enzymes, acids, everything. Get it all ready. And then what do? We take that water that alkalizes and we put it in. The water you drink 15 minutes beforehand, it's already processed. What we do with that one is while it needs those acids and everything to work right, we drink the water and then you, shortly after that, oh, I think I feel full. Not good. So understanding that, you don't drink a lot of water right after food either, do you? It's still there. So weight. The weight depends. How much did you eat? Was it fast digesting food? Was it slow digesting food? So it could be anywhere from 15 minutes, 30 minutes, 5 minutes, depending on what you ate. Judge it by, is it slow digesting and how much of it did I eat? Do I feel like it's starting to process good? And I've done studies myself and worked with other people. You can't eat most anything without drinking something. The exceptions would be something like if you're going to have a little bit of I'm changing the subject, so I'm over here. I'm just talking about having something liquid for your eating. If you want to have a little real pineapple juice or papaya, something like that, things that help your digestion, that's different. Other juices, I'm not saying that. Just things that are digestive aid.
I'm sorry, I have a little question.
Okay.
About the water. I mean, if you keep drinking water, then what about having to go to the bathroom too often?
If you drink a lot of water and you have to go to the bathroom often, that's confirmation you're dehydrated. Unless you have kidney or bladder problems. And if you have kidney or bladder problems, you need a lot of water. The medical community, when you start having bad kidney problems, they'll tell you to quit drinking water. Then you end up with kidney disease, dialysis, transplant list, and maybe die. You know what we do with some people that are on dialysis with kidneys shutting down? We'll put them on a watermelon diet and have them drink a lot of water. Put them on some goat milk as well. You know one of the first things that happen when they do that? They start swelling a little bit. And then they freak out. They say, that's just what the doctor said would happen. What are you doing to me? Don't hyperventilate. Keep breathing. So it swells up a little bit because the doctors will say it will swell up and your body won't process. And there you go. So what it does is swells up a little bit and the body says, oh, I finally got it. Comes down and everything starts to function good. More don'ts, important don'ts. Do not drink cold or iced drinks. We are not equipped for that. It shuts down your system. What happens if you get in a shower and you take a hot shower with your pores? What happens after you take a hot shower, or if you don't, and you jump into a cold shower?
Contract.
So what do you think happens with your blood circulation and your organs and everything else in your digestive system when you put ice drinks and cold drinks in there? It shuts them down and they can't function right. How long since Adam and Eve have we been having cold beverages and food? As a matter of fact, do you remember when we didn't have refrigerated air? I do. I'm not going to do without air conditioning, I'll tell you that right now. So putting it in your body is not good for your health.
How did we get, as a society, how did we get into this business of drinking?
Ever since we come out of the garden and live in a fallen world, and sin is here, we have been so destructive. You can take so many examples. All you got to do is come up with a concept, a product, an idea, whatever it is, put it in man's hands and watch all the wrong things he does with it. Food, water, society, education, governments, manufacturing, whatever it is, put it in his hands and watch what he does with it. Weight and sugars often go together. So, how many people that are really concerned about weight loss say, "Oh no, I don't do sugar. I don't do desserts. I don't like any of that stuff." So that's an issue that needs to be dealt with. Sugars equal fungus, yeast, candida. So here's my suggestion. There are a lot of things. What I have found to work the most, or best, if you like, oh, did I use that word? Best? Better than most other things, is actually a product from Thailand. If you're doing a correct diet and you follow it exactly, actually, product promo, it's not mine, order it from them.
What is the name of this product?
It's called Death to Fungus.
Death to fungus.
No, I'm just kidding. It's CCWS.
It'll take care of toe fungus, nails?
Usually you have toe fungus because you got too much fungus in the body. But there are topical things you can do for toe fungus. And so many things. Just put some tea tree oil on there. Many people want to know about calories, counting calories. How many calories should I eat? What about this, that? Counting calories, here's the summation, is a very complicated business. Bless you. All calories are not created equal. For those that are looking for that information, do you understand this average? So this is calories per day. And let me just say, to break it down and make it simple, a male typically needs 500 more calories a day compared to the female. So averaging between male and female, remember what averaging means, these are your numbers. So 2361 to maintain, 1861 to lose about a pound a week, 1361 to lose about 2 pounds per week. Those that are interested in gaining, that's what that's for. Now, that's in the box calculations and thinking, and that's pretty much standard out there. Does that apply for everybody? No. I'm not big on calorie count, because you know what the next thing is? Okay, what foods have what amount of calories, cooked how much, in what size portion, and it just gets worse from there. So I don't promote anybody doing that. If I suggest anybody that's wanting to do that, go join one of those groups and things that they advertise all the time that have your prepared meals for you and the calories and everything are already counted. You don't eat anything but what they tell you to eat, that they prepare and sell to you, which gets expensive.
What do you think about Weight Watchers?
The ones who do it, I see them lose weight.
But is it healthy?
That's a separate question. It's processed food. No, it's not healthy. It's not what I call a healthy diet. Is it a weight loss diet? Yes. It's a weight loss diet.
So should we stay off of everything that is processed?
For health?
Yeah.
Yes. Since counting calories, what foods, quantities, all that kind of stuff, I just make those suggestions, find those sources. Portions. I want to talk about portions. Because in that 8 hours, there are people that, have you ever known people that do this? I'm hungry, it's time to eat, I'm going to eat my meal. So they eat a big meal, and they eat an extra serving, and they may need an extra serving. And then when they're done with their meal, they immediately go to snacking. There's hardly a pause, and they're snack, and then they'll go to another snack. And it's just going in. Now, that's not what I call a meal. So that kind of eating has to stop. We're talking portions. Eat the portions for the weight you want to be at. Now here's a standard meal by standard American. You have a protein, and you have 2 or 3 vegetables. And you have a portion of each one. So don't stock up on your portions, because the more you put in there, it's going to go to you. Okay? What we're doing is we're saying take 8 hours each day, same amount of 8 hours, and eat every 2 hours. So even when you eat a meal, you eat a full meal, within 2 hours, we want you to eat again. Get that metabolism going. But then we want 16 hours away from it. That's the most profound thing about the whole weight loss deal. It is healthy. It's cycles that your body understands and works on and needs. And that third 8-hour period is critical.
So that 16 hours is the basic detox every day,
The last 8-hour period is the detox.
last 8 hours.
Before you're eating your breakfast. So there's some people that want to lose weight, but guess what? Maybe they don't eat breakfast. Maybe they stock up on other things, lunch or snacks or this. You need to eat breakfast. You need to eat some food. It is this simple, flexible, healthy eating diet that I'm recommending. Think of this, the portions. So questions on portions.
Is it supposed to be the palm of your hand? That's what I've heard.
Rounded palm of your hand.
You tell me, round it like this?
Yes, it can be rounded palm of your hand. Yes. We don't want you to starve. We want you to eat. We don't want you to eat in excess. Just look around, open the eyes, and look at, and I'm not talking about Texas and a lot of things, because I could say what normal portions are out there. And they work with plates and servings to overfeed you in this country. They're doing everything to create obesity. It's terrible. I don't have a lot of wonderful things to say about French government history and all that kind of stuff, but you know one of the things they did recognize, and they're paying millions of dollars to do this, of how dangerous it is to have soft drinks in schools, and they're pulling them all out. It creates obesity, and it affects their brain and functioning, because remember, sodium benzoate is in every soft drink. Sodium benzoate can cause aplastic anemia in some situations. What it does in all situations is it impairs brain function, and it's a toxin. It's a preservative chemical. And they even put it in a so-called lot of natural things that you'll find in natural companies and natural supermarkets. Young Living has a wonderful, great drink. It's expensive, it's in a nice bottle, starts with an X, you know which one I'm talking about. Everything in there I'm in favor of. I think the drink is great, it tastes great, everything in there is good, except for one thing. They added sodium benzoate. And there is no reason for it to be in there, because the oils that are in there preserve it. It doesn't need a preservative, but it's in there to comply with the garbage out here that's ruining our country. So, in that case, it makes it a bad deal. No diet anything. No diet drinks, no diet foods, no diet ingredients, no sugar substitutes, and please limit or eliminate processed sugars. You are what you eat. You are also the amount that you eat. Your body can only function according to what fluids and foods you put into your system on a daily basis. Sugar substitutes, dietary stuff, is not only very toxic and harmful to you and your immune system, but it has been shown in all independent studies to cause weight gain. And the whole reason to use them in the propaganda and marketing is for weight loss, and results in weight gain. That's like, reminds me of the sunscreen. Why do you use sunscreen? Protect the skin. Part of it may be for the sunburn, but what's the worst thing can happen if you get too much rays and sun exposure? Big C word, cancer. So what's the worst type of cancer you can get from sun rays? Melanoma. The only type of cancer that sunscreens have shown in studies to produce is melanoma. Not other types of skin cancer, but melanoma. You put on the creams, you get the sun exposure, you run the risk of melanoma. You put on the cream, you don't get in the sun, it's not a risk. Oh boy. So, no diet stuff. That's absolutely out. This should not be a temporary diet to suffer through, but a new way of thinking and eating for health and life and longevity. If you reward yourself because you've done very, very good, and you reward yourself with sweets or bad food after accomplishing the good goals, we have wrong or simply stinking thinking. You got to get your mind right to live a healthy life. You know how it is, isn't that what most people do? Oh, I've done so good, I've been fasting, I fasted for this, that, and the other, or I have done without this, or done without that. Now, let me go feast on it. What's that about? We need to correct some thinking. You want some TKM related to diet?
Yes.
Median sequence. I told you it's always going to be a median sequence first. Stomach sequence, especially left. Let me explain. Either stomach sequence will help regulate, but left stomach sequence is for cleansing. Right stomach sequence is for building. So when you're understanding the differences, if it's for weight loss, the left will serve that purpose better. If you have a right need, it doesn't mean you're going to gain weight. Apply the right sequence. Right side sequence. Diaphragm and or umbilicus sequence is very important. These are illustrated in the books and talk about waist up weight or waist down weight. It helps work with those, depending on which one. There's also what's called a spare tire. So it's the middle one.
So what is for spare tire? What is the sequence for spare tire?
You do both umbilicus and diaphragm, but here's the deal. The next sequence is the 23-25 combination sequence. And it works waist up, waist down, and waist. So whether it's weight that's up, weight that's down, or weight that's in the middle, the 23-25 sequence will help. There's many other sequences, but those are the main priorities. So let's reiterate. Proper daily exercise and stretching. You need activity and you need exercise. That's two different things. So if you get up one day and you exercise for 45 to 60 minutes and you do some cardio and everything, and then the rest of the day you're sitting down or laying down, active life. You get what you do. If you want this, then you get that. And that will happen with your organs, your tissues, your muscles, your brain, and everything. So be active. Plus exercise, plus stretching. Stretching and exercise is two different things. Stretching is very, very important. Sodium benzoate, which I've already mentioned, is in most every soft drink and some of the healthy drinks. So please read the back of labels. And we've talked about artificial sugars. Those should be looked at as taboo. You know, if you're ever going to use a sugar, I didn't promote it. Did I say use it? I said if you're ever going to use it and they give you those little things and you have the different colored packets, don't go for those. And preferably don't go for the white death. But sometimes they'll have the little brown package that's not so processed. So you'd use one of those, but don't even let your fingers touch those other packages. You should think of it as that bad. Fiber is essential for weight loss. One of the good ways to get fiber, eat some raw vegetables. Eat raw vegetables that have fiber. You know, I've seen a lot of people with constipation and stuff, and if I just get them, let's keep it simple. Eat some raw carrots every day. And then they start talking about these wonderful bowel movements they're having. All they're doing is eating some raw carrots every day. That shows you how bad the need was. Fiber is essential for weight loss and to keep the toxins out. Proper bowel movements. So if you're wanting to lose weight and you're not having bowel movements every day, because some people we see, weight or not, the worst I've seen is a bowel movement a week. And I just don't know how a person can really survive with a bowel movement a week. One bowel movement per day is chronic constipation. So you need to have 2 or 3 bowel movements as your minimum. If you're having 4 bowel movements or 5, then we got a different kind of problem. Bowel movements are important. If your system is working ideally, every time you eat a meal, you will have a bowel movement either immediately after the meal or within 1 hour.
And why does that happen?
What goes in has to make room, so what goes out.
No, but if you just ate the food, it should take some time for all the food to get digested, right?
True.
So I guess it probably moves away whatever contents in the bowl were there from before.
Well, it's going to be in your large intestine. But the thing is, remember when you're chewing up here in your sublingual glands and it's letting your entire body know what's happening? Does it also communicate with your large intestine?
So actually it should happen after half an hour or an hour,
Yes,
if it is healthy.
making room. It doesn't mean the food you ate is there yet, it's not. But it's the cycle, it's the process. If it's functioning properly, we do this. We don't get it jammed somewhere in between. It flows properly in your body.
So that means, since you said earlier, you have 8-hour cycle and you're eating every 2 hours. So you're going to have every bowel movement, a bowel movement after every 2 hours.
No, I mentioned meals. So 3 meals. So if you have 3 bowel movements a day, great. But while we're there, might as well touch on it. I've seen people that come in and say, I'm always, I want to scoop on the poop. So how many bowel movements are you having? Oh, I have 2 or 3 a day, every day. And then I'll check them. And I see a lot of bowel toxins. So why are we having a lot of bowel toxins? Because it's going right through and it's not cleaning the walls. They're very toxic. And all your colon is still clogged up. It's not clogged up like this. It's clogged up and caked up on the walls. Perfect for parasites and disease and every other thing to collect up. You gotta clean the walls. Roughage.
Will this roughage and this raw food clean the walls of the colon?
With enough strict diet like that, or not really strict, healthy diet like that, yes. If we're talking about somebody that's been around for a while and they eat really bad, no, it's going to take more than that.
What do you take? What could you take?
That's a whole nother situation. You'd probably have to get into fasting, roughage diet, vitamins and minerals and herbs for roughage, maybe some colonics that are done correctly, lots of other things to help break up that false lining that can develop that's almost elastic and hard to get out. So that part can get very complicated. We hope that you won't be there and that eating properly and getting enough roughage will clear out your colon and keep it clear. Another reason why you don't live on processed foods. It's perfect for creating that type of situation. Proper bowel movements, proper sleep. Another thing related to bowels and sleep is people that have insomnia, have a hard time going to sleep. If you can get them to have a bowel movement before they go to sleep, a lot of times they'll sleep like a baby. It's their gut and the neurotransmitters that are messed up won't allow them to sleep proper. Stress relief, got to get rid of stress. Many ways that you can do that. Proper water intake. We've talked about that. These are all basic healthy things to do and will cause you to lose weight in a healthy way while increasing your energy, brain function, relieving stress, and allowing for more joy. In certain situations, especially for the few that may not respond properly, we can test, assess, and you can find out what the obstacles are or the health issues preventing your body from functioning correctly. We'll get that to a regulated lifestyle. As in all things, this takes change. Change in mindset is the first thing. Change in lifestyle. Change in your basic dedications. It becomes so much easier once you make a key word. Decision. Then the battle's over. You're just going through the process. Decision to simply do what it takes to reach your goal for healthier life and longevity. We've never had a case that did not respond when they do the basics required. I didn't say everything to the T. I said the basics required. We're here to help in any way we can. Metabolic boosting steps. So the things you do. One of the primary ones is to drink plenty of water. The standard offer, like I said, is 100 fluid ounces minimum a day. Eat more of these fat-burning foods, but I disagree with that. There's a lot of things here, like it's talking about shrimp and scallops and whey protein. It does say whitefish. I highly promote that. Chocolate and all kinds of other stuff that's not good. And this is on, yes, I will name names. So this is from Dr. Oz. I pulled this off this morning because of what I got asked last time. So he's talking about hot chocolate and chocolate protein and a lot of these other things and shrimp and stuff. And then I can tell you about, I was also talking about plus teas and green teas and black coffee. He's promoting you doing that. So I've just explained a few things about that. So I am not in promotion of doing that. Fasting resets metabolism. So we're going to have a lot more of these lectures. Hope to see you there. We'll see you soon.